Welcome to the Business Unscripted podcast. We're here to share real-life insights, practical strategies, and the honest lessons that we have learned from our own mistakes because, frankly, we have been in your shoes. So whether you need help with operations, accountability, financial knowledge, sales, or maybe just getting your mindset right, we are here, and this is the right spot for no-fluff conversations and tools that work. So grab your favorite cup of joe. Let's jump into the show. I got caught with my favorite cup of joe. Let's jump into the show, ladies and gentlemen. It's another Friday, which means it's another episode of the Business Unscripted podcast. If you're a business owner, or maybe you're an aspiring business owner and you just want some place to be, to have some practical advice, struggles that we've experienced, not only in our business journeys, but in our clients that we've helped them overcome as well, you're in the right place. We're here to provide you all that fun insight, answer questions so that you can learn from our mistakes, our lessons, and hopefully not make them again in your journey. But we welcome you to another episode. It is episode, what episode is it? 69, I think. Holy cow. If I was a high school version of myself, I would probably have had a lot more fun with this episode, but I am not. We're now in our 40s, but here we are. So it's been a fun week. Last week we were out of town. We were in, in a baseball tournament. And this week, luckily, we don't have to travel. So we're able to be back here in the podcast studio at our offices near Cleveland, Ohio. But man, it's been a fun week. Dwarn is not here today. Dwarn hopefully is staying dry. I guess one of the big things over in the Philippines is that they have a lot of rain. And he is dealing with some of that this morning. So evening over there. So Dwarn, stay dry. Hopefully, everything, there's no flooding in the house or anything like that. So obviously you got to take care of that stuff first. But we look forward to welcoming you back, my friend. But yeah, take care of that first. Some housekeeping, as we're getting rolling here. If you ever have questions, you're watching a replay and you are interested or have, feedback or questions on anything that we chat about during the conversation, feel free, drop it down below in the comments, wherever you're watching, whether it's on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube. You can drop it down in the comments. We'll make sure to check those and we'll respond to those, or you can email us at support@triumphbusinesssolutions.pro. We will get you some answers to your questions there as well. Or if you have a suggestion for a topic, or maybe a obstacle that you're currently facing in your business and you want us to potentially walk it through, if it's something we could help you with, share it down below as well, or shoot it as DM wherever you're connected to us. We'll make sure to get that information and answer that for you on a future episode. So with that, I was trying to think this morning, I was interested to have this conversation with Dwarn because I think it's impactful and interesting to get other people's opinion on it. But I'll share an experience that I just had Wednesday. And I'll share it as a cautionary tale to not do yourself. So I'm in a client meeting, and it's client I've been working with for a while. We go back and forth. We have meetings multiple times a week. He's answering phone calls while we're working in our working sessions together. And I got a call. And so on our new iPhones now, the newer iPhones, they have the ability to call screen ahead of time for numbers that you don't know. And I do have that ability on my work cell phone. And I looked down, happened to look down, I saw that I was getting a call. And the message stated, that the person who was calling was in need of some bookkeeping support. So I politely asked, my client, I said, hey, can I take this call real quick? I'll be right back. And of course, he said, okay. So I answered the phone and, just typical, hey, it's Dave with Triumph Business Solutions. How may I help you? And the individual on the other line was a gentleman. And he said, oh, hey, Dave, I know you from Alignable. We've been connected there. I saw your name and I saw that you reached out, and I wanted to, or I saw that, we are in the same area because it was a local area code. And I wanted to reach out, and I said, oh, okay, what can I help you with? Right. Well, what brought on the conversation, knowing that it said he was looking for accounting support. And now this is where the call completely goes off the rails, because instead of needing something, he wanted to sell me something. And he immediately goes into a pitch. And I'm like, what the? And again, it's not that I was upset that he told me he needed support and really he just wanted to sell me. It was the lesson, right, of he literally lied just to get my attention. And so he's like, I'm with, I don't know if you heard of this company, but we're one of the top CRMs around. And I said, bro, I'm going to stop you right there. Okay. One, I don't care about your software, because if you were to do research on me, you would know that this is stuff that I already do. Two, you lied to get me on the phone. Like, why would you say you wanted accounting support on my call screen and then try to sell me immediately? Well, it's the only way you would have picked up. Yeah, you're right. He's like, otherwise people just don't pick up. I'm like, yeah, because they don't want to be sold to. You ever think of that? And then immediately hangs up. But here's the long lesson that I think needs to be taken out of this situation. If you're calling somebody because your entire goal is to solve something for yourself, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. The goal isn't to do something for yourself. The goal is to help somebody else overcome an obstacle that they're facing. Provide them a solution to a problem that they're facing, or an obstacle, or a struggle. Right? Find the problem that your ICP, your ideal client profile, is facing and solve it. But you can't force the solution down their throat. And you can't expect somebody to just accept you for, well, I called them, I lied to them to get them to pick up the phone, and that they're going to be okay with that. That's the problem. Salespeople right now don't understand that. At least the bad ones don't understand that. The good ones do. And they do it the right way. They ask questions. They find out where you are, what your situation is, how they could potentially solve that situation or that problem, if there is the problem to be solved. But if there is no problem to be solved, why are you going to try and still sell? That's the biggest lesson I learned, that until I knew that there was a problem, not everybody needs a solution. Not everybody needs support. But you have to be willing to find it out and ask the right questions, not lie to get somebody to pick up their phone like this gentleman did on Wednesday. So if that's you, and maybe you're watching this, maybe it's a full circle. You know exactly who you are. I'm not going to name you here. I'm not going to call you out. But don't lie to get through a screen and then try to sell somebody the minute they pick up the phone. I might have even been better and okay if you would have led with the story a little bit more. Of, yeah, I'm an independent contractor. I saw that you do, some bookkeeping. I was just interested to learn a little bit more about your situation and what you do and how you help people. That could have been more believable than the minute I pick up the phone, you tell me about your company, you tell me how amazing your company does and the things that you do, and then immediately try to sell me on a meeting to learn about your software. Sorry, brother. It's the wrong way to do it. Don't lie. Anything built on a lie to start is never going to work, especially not a lie of saying, I want to do business. I want you to help me. And then immediately when I pick up the phone, you're trying to have you help me for something that I don't even need help with. Think about that. So think about your own sales conversation. Think about, have you maybe been this gentleman in the past? Maybe you're still being this gentleman right now. It's a lesson to be learned. And so here's the thing, and I've mentioned this in all of our conversations, and So look up Jeremy Miner, 7th level. I went through his, first couple levels of training, and I wholeheartedly believe in what he teaches in terms of a salesperson. It was one of the biggest sort of recognitions as a entrepreneur, business owner, that you have to realize is that you are a salesman. You have to be. I fought it for the longest time. I didn't expect that I was a salesman. I didn't think I was a salesman. I'm like, oh, I'm a business owner, right? I came from corporate. I never had to sell anything. I was in finance and accounting for a while, in operations. I didn't have to sell anything. But now, when you're a business owner, you have to sell yourself. You have to sell your product, your solution. And my initial idea was how amazing it is, what they needed, right? Here's all the benefits. You need to know this stuff. You need to understand X, Y, and Z, or else you're not going to be successful. When in reality, pushing benefits and a solution to somebody that doesn't have a problem doesn't make them want to buy even more. It makes them resistant. So take the moment, think back to your own sales process, your own sales conversations. Are you there because you want to learn more about them and you want to see, is it even possible that there's something that you could do? Or are you treating every single person that you talk to as a win-loss, and if they don't sign up with you, it's a loss? Because if that's the case, you're doing it wrong, right? Everybody you talk to, right, is not going to be a potential lead for you. They may not even be in the right place for a decision to be made right now, or facing a problem that you can even help them with. And if that's the case, it's not a loss if they say no, or if you don't have the ability to even conversate. So you have to realize that you have a specific solution, a specific benefit and support that you can provide to people. You can't force that onto people. You have to find the people that are in a situation, in a problem that you can help them with, and then they're going to be your raving fans when you can help them get over it. So what you're going to find is it's going to be a release off of yourself. It's going to be a release of that pressure off of your back to help really force you, right, where you're trying to force every sale, you're trying to force every conversation. By realizing that I don't have to sell everybody. I don't have to sell anybody, really. Once you change the way that you're focusing your conversations, the sale becomes easy because you're identifying a problem and then you're helping them see the solution in themselves and persuading themselves to persuade themselves that now is the time to make the change, and that you potentially could be the one to help them reach that change. That's the biggest piece. That's the biggest part that you have to get over and realize as a business owner. Not what this gentleman did on Wednesday. Don't do that. Don't lie just to get on the call and then try to immediately sell. And so I kind of mentioned, right, this, we do our alliance meetings. We just had one, and we do our roundtable discussions. Every session we do roundtable. We just ask questions, and there's a couple newer business owners that were in the room this time around this week. And the question came down to about sales, about how that they can have better conversations. And the first thing that I tell anybody that is, getting into meetings or getting into conversations, I love you too, baby. The thing you can do is, one, stop thanking them for their time as soon as they get on the call. Why we think we're being polite, but when in reality we're not. It's the biggest lesson that I learned. Because in reality, they booked a call with you for a specific reason. They're facing a scenario. They wanted to book a call with you, whether they saw your profile, whether a conversation you had, that helped them realize that there's a problem that they need to get over. But why thank them for their time to reach out to you? You seem desperate at that point, right? Well, thanks for your time. I appreciate you booking. You should have limited time. Really, and what that does is immediately reduces your expertise level in their eyes. Psychologically, whether it's conscious or unconscious in their mind, they immediately see you as being desperate for the conversation. When in reality, you should start your conversations like, well, hey, John, I see that you booked this time, and we're here on this call today. What brought you to book a time today? Like, what are you currently facing right now that made you want to book a time? And for us to kind of talk about, give me some more details on it. Or if you had a conversation, maybe you were DMing and you were leading up to this conversation, understand that preference, right? Understand the conversation that was happening. And then when you get on that call with John, all right, John, just appreciate you being a little patient with me here, just getting off another call. I know we were talking about X, Y, and Z, the situation that you were facing. Give me a little bit more details on that so we can deep dive a little bit, deeper and kind of see where you're at and what a solution looks like for you. That's how you start a conversation. Not, hey, John, I really appreciate you getting on my calendar and booking a call with me because I really hope that you purchase with me at the end of the conversation. That's kind of what you sound like when you do that. So you don't want to sound desperate. You don't want to do that. So just start your conversations more pointed, more towards what we'd call the connecting stage of, tell me a little bit. Have you found the answers since we last chatted about X, Y, and Z problem that you'd mentioned that you were having? Or are you still searching for the next steps? And use things like, I know I can help you, right? Or don't use things like, I know I can help you, or this is the best solution for you. And use non-committal type words, right? Well, would you be open if I could show you a possible path forward, like possible being the key word there? Or I think this may work in your situation. Do you want to talk through it? Right? Using those non-committal type words helps to keep that resistance wall down. Because in their eyes, you're not trying to push a solution down their throat. You're clearly wanting to talk through it and mean it. That's the whole idea here. You have to mean these things as you're having the conversation, that you're not going to shove something down their throat. And so that's the biggest lesson I learned, and I shared this the other day during a session, is don't lead a conversation or don't start a exploratory call with, hey, thanks for booking a call with me. I really appreciate it. All right. And for sure, going back to the initial story, like, don't be that guy. Don't be the guy that has to lie to get a call and then try to sell. Like, don't book on somebody's exploratory call calendar with the hope of turning the conversation on you and being able to turn them into a client, right? That's the biggest thing you can do there is if it turns into that naturally, great, but don't have it be your focus. And you have to be honest. People will see through you. They'll see your true intentions. The biggest compliment that you can get as a business owner is when you're working with somebody already and they reach out to you to do more work for them. That's the biggest compliment that you can get, because they see the value. They see all of that already. And then second, the second biggest compliment is obviously you can get testimonials, you can get referrals, you can get all of that. Those are the things that you want to strive for, not to be the guy that had to lie to get into a conversation with somebody. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy from the beginning of this conversation. Which kind of brings me to the next point of, we talked about sales and training. You have to see yourself as a salesperson, as a business owner, whether you see yourself as, whether it's an experience, maybe you have experience in sales or maybe you don't. The idea here is that you have to sell yourself one way or another. You have to be willing to get out there to talk about yourself, to be willing to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, to outreach people and have conversations. That is the biggest single thing that is going to define your success as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, is how frequent, right, you are doing those things. The conversation came up again in the roundtable discussion was how much time, how do you balance the doing service for your customers or your clients versus doing outreach and conversations to grow your business, to do business development. The first piece of conversation there it's definitely around, are you at where you want to be? do you have the revenue level? Do you have the number of clients that you want to be at? Or, what's your actual like vision of the company? Is it just you always? Is it, I want to grow a team and I want to service hundreds of clients? Or do you just want to have a small boutique type business that is providing you the life that you want? That's a difference. There's two different paths there. But what that comes down to is if you're not at where you want to be, right? You're not at the client level, you're not at the revenue level. The minimum I tell people is that you need to at least be spending 2 to 3 hours per day, 6 days a week, doing some sort of outreach, conversations, prospecting, all of that. And if you're not, right, because it takes 60, 90, sometimes longer, depending on your buying journey of your client, to make a decision. And so if you're not doing that today, your pipeline in 60, 90, 120 days is going to be dried up or non-existent, right? Or minimal. Be like maybe you got a slow leak happening in your faucet of your pipeline. So it's vital for you to continue to kind of put that attention on your outreach every day, no matter what. And what I mentioned was, the client piece, the client service piece, like that's the part that like anybody can do. You're going to be hiring people to do the client service piece. So don't worry, right? If you have 12 clients and you need to get to 15 and you're worried about, well, I have to service all of them. Maybe now is the time, right? In order to reach that next level, you have to make an investment in your business. You have to make that investment into support to help you, to free you up to do the development piece. Here's the thing that so many people default to, because we've talked about the E-Myth, right? And the 3 mindsets, right? The technician, right? The manager and the entrepreneur, right? The visionary. So many people default to being the technician, to doing the work, to being in the weeds, doing all that. They spend way too much time in there as a business owner because it's what you're comfortable with. You came out of corporate world being the technician. It's what you're like, oh, I'm just going to go do this for myself. The shift you need to make is realizing that the technician is the easy part. The technician's the comfortable part. You have to spend time in the manager and you have to spend time in the visionary, right? The entrepreneur, in order to successfully grow your business. So when you're thinking of how do I balance development versus client work, well, realize that once you get to a specific level in client work, hire that out, outsource that. Because that's the easy part. Nobody's going to care about your business enough to sell it as good as you, to sell the support as good as you, and grow as much as you do. No employee ever is going to care about your business more than you. So what you have to do, you have to focus. Okay, I'm going to get to whatever it is, whether it's 10 clients or $10,000 a month in monthly recurring revenue, and then I'm going to hire somebody to manage the client work so that I can still focus on the development pieces. Now, I'm not saying you can't hire sales staff. I'm not saying that you can't hire some sort of business development side of the business. What I'm saying is that as you're growing, you have to be the one to do the majority of that, develop the training around that, develop the support around that, not have somebody else do it for you. Because you're the one that's going to care the most about it. You're the one that's going to want to be the most successful, not John or Jane who are on your business team. They want the paycheck. They want the job. That's why they're there. Now, you can, over time, build culture, build, right, all of that. But in the end, no matter what, they're never going to care as much about your business as you do. So that was another thing that we kind of talked about, was how do you balance that? Well, you balance it by, one, making sure you're spending the time now on the business development side, at least 2 to 3 hours a day, 6 days a week. And then understand that once you get to whatever the level is of goal that you're striving for client work, that you begin to outsource that so that you don't lose the business development, which is your manager and your entrepreneur mindsets. So many people default and just say, oh, I can't do business development today because I have to service my clients. Well, you're only going to hurt yourself down the road, because in 60 to 90 days, when those people might have turned into some sort of lead or new client, that pipeline's frozen because you don't have any conversations in the works. And then a client leaves and now you're struggling, and now you're wondering why you have nothing in the works to replace that client who just left. It's why it's so vitally important to always do the prospecting, always do the conversations, always have meetings, always network, no matter what you have in client work. And if you feel like you're behind, it's a signal. It's your business's signal to you that you need to hire to support. Did you miss it? Did you miss the signal? So many people do. It's giving you the sign of, hey, if you want this to be successful, if you want to reach the goal that you're set for yourself in your business, you probably need to make a change. Where are you at right now in your business? Are you ready for that change? Did the light bulb go off and you're just like, yeah, Dave, I've been seeing that for a minute. I need to make a change here. We'll get to that in a minute. But first, as we always say, right, the podcast sponsored by Triumph Business Solutions. It's the month of July, and with that, we're running our July 4th 250th anniversary special. And so that for any new client in Triumph Business Solutions who needs some bookkeeping financial support, we have some specials for you. So go to promo.triumphbusinesssolutions.pro / July 4th. And in there, we talk about any new client. If you're under $250,000 revenue, it's $250 a month for the rest of the year. And that gets you monthly financial statements, group support, conversations, monthly categorization. So if you're spending hours and hours and hours on your bookkeeping, that's where you're going to find your time, as we're talking about, to do your business development. Now's the time to potentially get the support that you need. So if you have questions about it, drop it down below. We'll have the link down below as well for the special. But with that, let's jump back into it. So you may be like some people that I have conversations with on a regular basis as well, where you may realize, hey, I have to make a change, but yet you still might be resistant to that change. I'm having a couple of conversations with people right now. They know that they are missing capacity. They know that they need to be doing different things with their team to lead them to reach KPIs, to help reach goals of the organization. But there's a resistance to actually wanting to move that forward. And it's one of two, or maybe a few different ways. One, maybe they've tried some sort of support in the past and it's failed. And so they have that lingering feeling of, or maybe you have the lingering feeling that, well, I don't know if I want to, we can't do this. We have to do it all, right? We have to do everything, or else nobody's going to do it how we want it. And you're right. If you're right, like nobody's going to do it exactly your way. Nobody is going to do it exactly how you would do it in your business. I can't live up as an advisor, right, or as a fractional to what you specifically wholly want in your business. The goal with doing that is to help lead and help release that need that it has to be exactly 100% your way, that it can be done, right? We partner together, or whoever you're working with, right? You have the conversations of, hey, this is where we're striving to be. Here's where we want to get to. Here's the goals that we're trying to reach. How can we get there, right? So the ultimate here is that if you're finding yourself in that situation where you know you need to make a change, you know you need to hire out, and you're resistant to it, you know, why is that resistance there? Understand that. And if it's because of history, was there checks and balances not in place? Was there monthly reviews not in place in order to ensure that everything was happening the way that you would hopefully want it to be? Because that's the biggest piece that I try to do with all my clients, right? With regular meetings, regular check-ins, what's working, what's not working. Where do we need to be? Where do you want to be? How do we get there, right? What do you want to see more of from the team? You don't have the capacity to do it all. As we talked about, like the sales side of things, like the leadership side, the business development side, like that's 100% going to be you as a business owner. Now, especially when you're successful at that, like that's where I know some people that are like, that's their bread and butter is development and growth for their business. Internally, that's not where their capacity should be, right? Because it's not their strength. Or it could be a strength, but but there's limited times in a day. And so you have to understand, where is the benefit for the long-term goal for your attention? And then from there, make the adjustment. So when you think of, how do you get over the hump of being willing to hire? Well, just make sure you have like check-ins in place, you have roadmaps in place, you have what does success look like in this engagement in place with whoever you decide to work with. Those are the things that are going to be really important. But you have to release the idea that you have to be the one to make it your way, right? You can provide guidance as the owner, as the president, the CEO, but sometimes it's not 100% going to be done 100% in what you would prefer, right? And that's just a given. And if that's what you want, if you want it to be 100% your way, then it's probably not going to work out, right? If you have to micromanage your fractional or your team member who you're bringing in, you're going to drive them away. And that's probably why it's not going to work. So you have to really think back and give that self-assessment, right? Have that external view of the situation and be able to analyze what happened and what worked and what didn't work and how you can make it better. But if you're always going to live in the past, well, I tried this once and it didn't work, so it's never going to work again, you're going to stay in stagnant. You're never going to be able to grow. And if your ultimate goal is to grow and be a bigger organization, how do you plan to do that if it's just you? When you envision a larger corporation, a more successful corporation for yourself that you're trying to build, what does it look like? You have all these positions that you know you need right now that you're fighting. So why are you fighting it if you know you need it? And it's in your vision in the future anyway. And maybe you're facing this situation, you're having these conversations with people, and like they've said to you, hey, I need your solution. Like, I need this. I don't know, maybe not the right time. I don't know. This is why Jeremy Miner's, right, the persuasion questioning comes into play so much here, because no matter what you say to them about, well, you need this because it's going to do A, B, and C for you, that's not going to persuade them. Like, you need this because you just told me, right, how great of a support person I am for you. Like, that's not going to push them more. They have to persuade themselves. So this is why asking the right questions in the situation is important. Right? Well, tell me more. Why don't you think right now isn't the right time to overcome this obstacle that you're facing right now? Like, what happens in 6 months if you stay the same? Where's the business? Where's your time if you don't make a change and things are the same in the next 6 months? What happens? What's the consequence? I don't know that. They know that because they see it, right? They live it every day. They're exhausted. They're overwhelmed, right? They're doing too much. And if it doesn't change in 6 months and then it stays the same for 12 months, like, what are the impact there? What's the monetary impact? And this is where sometimes it can really help to really say, like, if you understand how much time they're spending in a particular task that is taking them away from other things, they've said it, well, hypothetical, right? You mentioned you're doing 5 to 6 hours a week on X, Y, and Z. If you had those hours back, what would you do with those 5 to 6 hours? Let them explain it. More often than not, it's going to be 2 or 3 things that are important to them, right? Business development, more sales, right? More lists, whatever it is. And if you're able to do that 5 to 6 hours a week, have those increased meetings, like, what do you think new client wise or new deals would you be able to bring into the business if you had those 5 to 6 hours a week to you? what would you be able to do for the organization? And now this is where they're like, you don't push any answers down, right? Like they are answering this for themselves. Well, maybe 3, 4, 5 deals. Okay. Well, let's use 3 for now. Approximately right now, what is an average deal worth to your business? And they can say, well, whatever the number is, right, depending on size, but let's say it's $10,000 per deal. So at 3, that would be like $30,000 a month, right? Yep. And so if I'm doing my math correctly, so 3 for a year, it's about, $360,000. Does that seem all right? Does my math work? And let them, joke and yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, that seems about right. $360,000. So does it seem like it would be, if you don't make a change, that you'd be costing yourself about $360,000 in gross profit? And that number right there can be, especially if it's a lot more than any sort of investment or anything that you're potentially saying for a solution, that number could really be, and again, you used the conservative number. You didn't go with their high number. Oh, let's use 10. What if we did 10? No, you use their very conservative number of 3 potential new deals by getting back 5 to 6 hours a week to do more of what they need to do that they're good at. So 3 deals, $10,000 per deal, which they gave you. You didn't just make it up. They gave you. That math is very simple. 3 times 10 is 30,000 a month, times 12 is $360,000 a year. So do you feel right now that the problem is worth more? Right? Not solving the problem is worth more than $360,000? Or do you feel that it would be worth the extra $360,000 a year to find a solution that would work for the problem right now? And so when you start to do that, you start to ask those types of questions and work through the scenarios with them. And again, you're concerned, like, again, at this point in the conversation that I have with people, it's not with me specifically. It's like just their problem. Like, is this problem worth $360,000 to overcome? If it is, then maybe there's a solution that we might be able to provide, or at least now you've gotten the information to know that you should go out and search other potential solutions. May not be me. I'm not right for everybody. I have a different advisory leadership type style than Jane down the road. You have to find the person that you trust that's doing work for you, or maybe you learned from in the past, or maybe referred to, that you can work forward with. But when you get onto a call with somebody, realize that, like, if you take that pressure off of yourself of like, okay, I got to sell this person. Like, the hardest part, because you want to increase your revenue. Like, it's a lifestyle, right? It's a lifestyle for you that you need to accomplish and close, and obviously bring in revenue. And especially if you don't have support staff at home, or maybe things are off at home and you're pressured at home to make sales and grow. It's harder, but if you take that pressure off in the conversation, it makes it that much easier to have those conversations and to be involved and be empathetic in their situation and be genuinely open to understand that I may not be the right person for this. And that's okay, but at least we helped you, point you in the right direction. So I hope that kind of added a little bit of insight into how you can have those conversations with people when you're facing a resistance. And the biggest thing I learned from Jeremy and the NEPQ, and again, I didn't go through his whole, like, there's way more that I could have done, but when somebody gives an objection, don't just take that at face value. Dive a little bit deeper, right? Why have to think about it? Well, what better time to think about it than right now with you on the phone call, right? So ask a little bit more. Well, no worries. Everybody's got to think about it. I get it. It's a big chunk of, funding or availability of, an investment to make a decision on this. I'm just curious, when you go to think about what are some of the things that you're going to think through, right? Ask some questions. Like maybe get some more information and help them overcome whatever it is that they're resistant to. You'll find out if it's price, if it's scope, if it's, is it being locked into a long-term agreement? What is it? By asking that type of question of, well, help me understand, like, what is it? Like when you go to think about it tonight, what do you think is the stuff that you're going to think through? Because what better way to answer any questions that you might have than me being right here in front of you, right? Ask those types of things. Tell me a little bit more about that. And that's ultimately when you're going to be able to kind of help them come through. And again, you're not pushing. You're not saying, well, this deal is only good for this phone call. Like, don't push. You don't have to push. Just being open, having a conversation. That's all you can do. So with that, that's kind of where I wanted to go with today's podcast episode. So again, to wrap up, don't be a liar in order to get on the phone with somebody, to get somebody to pick up, especially when you're going through the call screening. I gave the story of the guy who called me and said he wanted my services, and then immediately when I picked up, he tried to sell me his. So don't be that guy. We talked about salesmen, right? We talked about some sales strategies on the call. But if you have any questions or anything that you want, go ahead, throw it down below. We make sure to answer those. I'll review those. And with that, any topics that you have, any feedback you have, make sure to share that as well. Looking forward to seeing y'all next week. I hope you guys have a wonderful and amazing week. We'll be on the road again next week, but I'll be here like I am every week, episode 70. So with that, I hope you guys have a wonderful and amazing week, and we'll see you, everybody. See you in the next one. Bye, y'all.